Hello and welcome to the Addicts Anonymous podcast. I'm your host, Jim Marr. Today's episode 129, and we're interviewing Elizabeth M. How are you doing, Elizabeth?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
It's great to hear. We were chatting a little bit before, so it sounds like you're excited to do this.
I am.
All right, that's great. So let's dive in and start. Tell me about growing up in your childhood.
Growing up, my dad raised me pretty much. My dad and my stepmom. My mom was in and out of jail. Different drug charges, other charges and stuff. So she was pretty much from the time I was 4 up until 15, maybe 14, somewhere.
Was your mom an addict?
Yes, my mom and my dad are both addicts. My stepdad as well. My stepmom's an addict. My whole family's pretty much addicts. Some of them don't, some of them have never tried drugs, especially not the drugs that I have done. So it took me a while to get clean, though. I had to go to prison for that. So, but that's later on. But my mom, she's been clean for over 20 years now. My stepdad as well. My dad and my stepmom, they drink still. So I guess they're still addicts pretty much, but everybody, we're all addicts, but some of us are in recovery.
Okay. So what was it like in your growing up years, your young years growing up with addicts? What was that like?
Don't get me wrong, my dad was a good man and he raised me pretty well. Middle class, he worked. He's worked my entire life doing the same kind of business.
What'd he do?
It was hard on me because my mom was gone. She kind of traumatized me pretty young.
What was traumatizing? Was it her leaving or?
Yeah, her just disappearing. I remember one time I was at my grandma's and it was me, my sister, and a couple cousins. And she told us, we were going to play hide and go seek. Well, she had us go hide and she said she was going to come find us and she never came. We stood hid for a minute and my grandma come and finally got all of us. And I remember the police coming and I remember being, hysterical. One of the officers gave me a teddy bear to, try to calm me down. I actually had that teddy bear up until a few years ago. And I carried that teddy bear everywhere with me. And then after that, she kind of just still dwindled in and out. She meant well, but addicts are going to do what they want. And I don't think they intentionally hurt people, but she still ended up hurting all of her kids.
What was the longest she ever went away for?
1129 was probably the longest.
How long?
11. Well, in jail wise, she went 1129 was the longest.
What's that? You talking about 11 months, 29 days?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She never really stayed gone for a long period of time except for jail. And my dad, he really didn't want us around her with her getting high and running off. And so he kind of kept us away, which made me kind of have feelings towards him that you're keeping me away from my mom. I didn't understand at that age, I can remember going to see her in jail numerous times. And I always swore I would never be like her, ever. And I turned out exactly like her. Exactly like her. So I didn't want to raise my child the way I was raised. And I went to prison. My mom didn't ever go to prison, but I did. I went to prison. 2004, I think my mom finally got clean. I remember her and my stepdad coming to pick me up when she got released from jail the last time. And I lived with them up until I turned 18, pretty much. And I, was back in, I want to say, I was in high school, ninth grade, I think, when I went and lived with them. And by this time, I would have already like dabbled in drugs. I've done coke, ecstasy, drinking, rolling, pretty much doing whatever I wanted to do because I was rebellious and I moved out of my dad's and in with a friend of mine. Now this was in middle school, mind you. And her dad just let us pretty much do whatever we wanted to do. We had a whole upstairs to ourselves, and that was the party house. So my drug use started probably, besides marijuana, it started about 7th grade.
7th grade?
Yep. That was pretty much doing everything. I didn't use needles or anything like that. I've never done that. I mean, there's a few drugs I've never done, but that I refused to because of my mom and how she just disappeared. And so I stayed away from certain drugs. But at that age, I wasn't doing any, like, I was marijuana, coke, and drinking ecstasy, maybe pills every now and again, but nothing like really, really hard.
And all that was 7th grade?
It's 7th and 8th grade, yeah.
It's very young to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you felt like when you first did it?
I liked it because I kept doing it. Yeah, I can remember certain times, just feeling absolutely amazing. And then one weekend, it was Super Bowl weekend. It was when the Bucks played home at their home in Tampa, 2001 or 2002, something like that. They even won the Super Bowl that year. I guess I had took too many pills or whatever, and had been up rolling all weekend. We went to school the next day, and I guess I hallucinated my mom and my stepdad jumping out of a window in Colorado. And my friend, she slapped me. She's like, come back, get out of it. And the teachers, they interjected and they took me to the office and they called my mom to make sure she was all right. After that, I graduated 8th grade. My 9th grade year, I didn't really go to school. I would rather go hang out with my friends on the roof and drink.
On the roof where?
On our friend had a roof you can get up on, and you could walk around, sort of like in a big city, the rooftops. They had one of them. So we would all skip school and get on the public transportation and go over there and just hang out all day and drink and just hang out, smoke weed.
And nobody said anything about you not going to school?
No, because I would always go to my second period class, because that's the class that if you weren't in, they would always call home. So I would always make my second period appearance, always. So I didn't get caught. And that worked pretty much all year. And then one time me and my friend of mine, we were sitting at a restaurant, like right down the street from my house, right across the street from where our school was. And my stepmom, she drives by and she sees us and she's like, what are you guys doing? You're supposed to be at school. So that was the only time I got busted, really. And she made me go to school. They made sure I went to school for the rest of the year. But they still held me back. So when I went and lived with my mom, when she got out of jail, I had to start ninth grade all over again.
How was high school?
I hated it for the most part. For the most part, I hated it.
Is there a reason you hated it?
No, I mean, there was no in particular reason that other than I just didn't want to go at that point. I would have rather done what I was doing. Who wants to go sit in the classroom all day when they can go hang out with their friends? So that's, I had a bad attitude back then. Very bad attitude. I did what I wanted.
Did your parents make sure you went to school?
At the end of the year they did. When my stepmom caught me, they made sure I went to school every single day after that.
What was your drug life? What was your drug use like during high school?
Ecstasy, marijuana, alcohol, pills. That was pretty much it. I didn't try any like heroin or meth. I didn't even know what meth was until I turned 21. We'll get to that story in a little bit. Yeah, I didn't even know what it was. I had never even heard of it. I never even thought about trying it, really. I was okay with just doing what I was doing already. And then my mom came home and we moved. I lived in Sarasota at this point. And then my mom got home and we moved up to North Florida near Panama City. And my grandma lived up here. We lived up here until my grandma died. She died 3 days after Hurricane Ivan hit. So that was hard. After that, my stepdad, he was a IBEW electrician, so he moved around a lot. When Katrina hit the Gulf Coast, they moved out there, and I was still in school at this point in the Panhandle. They went out there to get everything situated so I could come out there. I ended up getting in trouble at school one day, and where I lived at, they paddled kids. They still paddle kids to this day up where I'm from now. And I can't remember exactly what I did, but it was stupid, and I wasn't going to get paddled for it. And I refused to let them paddle me. So they called my mom. And my mom, mind you, is all the way out in Mississippi. There's nothing she can do. They explained to her what I did. And my mom's like, yeah, you're not paddling her for that. And she withdrew me from school. She ended up withdrawing me completely from school at that point. I was 16. I went out to Mississippi with her. They homeschooled me for a little while. And I got to the point where, because they leave me at home all day by myself, I got to the point where I just go hang out with my friends and just run around and do kid shit all day. Sorry, part of my language.
That's okay.
Smoking weed, my mom, her and my stepdad they messed up a couple times out there. I remember one time I had a bunch of friends over. They gave me some money. I went and bought a bunch of ecstasy, was smoking. And I remember my mom and my stepdad hadn't come out of their room in a while. And I was by myself and I was getting a little worried. So I went in there and my mom had overdosed. That was really scary. My stepdad, he was trying to, get her to come, pretty much come back. And that was the last time my mom ever stuck a needle in her arm, was that day. But she almost
Scared
died.
her enough, scared her straight a little bit.
Yeah.
What was she doing? Heroin?
Coke.
Coke.
Yep.
Shooting up coke.
Hmm. I'm sorry.
I said she was shooting up coke.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
She
you
had
made
a crack thing too. Might have been crack. I don't know. It was one of them. It was white. I know that.
okay.
uh, can't really remember. It was crack or coke. One of the two, though. I think it was coke, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, mind you, I had been rolling. Like, I had been popping ecstasy and doing coke all weekend, so I know it was probably coke because I was doing it. And that was pretty much the last time that they ever got high. Me, on the other hand, that was not the last time. But I quit doing everything except smoking weed, and I went and got me a job, and I pretty much worked mornings, and then I got tired of that job and I went to the casino and started working there. This was 2006, 2007 by this point. I have a younger brother and sister that they were getting into some trouble, and I didn't want them to go down the road that I had went down. I wanted to help them. So I ended up moving back down to Sarasota, and I ended up moving back in with the friend and from middle school, and pretty much lived there. I remember having a rolling party one night, and we had some guys over, and somehow I ended up with the person that was for her, and we ended up being together for almost 4 years after that. He took pills, methadone. You know, if he didn't have methadone, he'd get sick, or any type of pill. You know, he'd have to have it, or he'd get sick. I didn't do pills at this point. I had already lost multiple friends from overdoses. So I'd quit messing around with pills altogether. I won't even really take an occasional Tylenol for a headache now. I just don't. I'm not. Lost really close friends, and they could have been saved, and if they would have been just checked on. So I have a hard spot for pills. Very, very hard spot. So I didn't. I was just smoking weed and drinking. That's all I was doing at that point. Let's see. So I got tired of having to take care of a grown ass man. I had 2 jobs. I was working all the time. I was just tired of having to take care of him and his pill habit. So I packed up and I moved back up to the Panhandle. And by this point, I didn't really know anybody up there. So I started going out to the bar. I became a bartender, and I was doing karaoke. I was DJing the karaoke, and that's how I ended up meeting all these people. I turned 22 years old, and meth came into the picture. The devil's drug. Now that
Yeah, I
is
was
their
about to
right.
say that. You said something happened when you were 21.
Yeah, devil's drug, meth. Somebody, my friend's brother actually, he was like, "Hey, have you ever tried this?" And I was like, "No." I'd been drinking, you know, and they were like, "Well, if you do this, it will, you know, keep you up and you can continue drinking." And I was like, "Okay." And it was a wrap after that. It was a wrap. I got hooked really bad. I never did anything but snort it and smoke it. And I wish I would have never took that first hit. I'll tell you, it ruined my life, and I'm still trying to get my life back. really. I'm living out of a hotel room right now. That's another story. But I ended up getting pregnant in 2013. I ended up finding out I was pregnant. And I had by this point I had hid it from everybody that I was doing drugs. Then nobody knew that I was getting high all the time, because I had everything down to a T. Like I could be sitting in the living room and I knew every single noise of the house, every creak, every, I knew when my child's father was about to get out of bed. Like I always had time to hide it because I just had it down. I just knew, I just didn't want to get caught doing it. So I learned to wait for him to go to bed, or I'd go lay with him until he went to sleep. And then I would get back up and I would get high. That was the only time I could really get high, was when he was sleeping or he was at work. So I ended up getting pregnant. I found out I was pregnant with my son in October. I found out when I was like 2 weeks, because we were out drinking, and I ended up, me and him got into a fight, and I ended up getting out of the vehicle, and I guess I passed out on the side of the road, and some guy found me and called an ambulance, and they brought me to the hospital. And the doctor was like, did you know you were pregnant? And I was like, no. And he was like, well, do you know you have meth in your system? And at that point I was like, no, I don't do, denying that I smoked meth at this, I was like, no, I don't do it. Are you sure that it's meth? And he's like, yeah, I'm positive. He's like, you need to quit drinking and you need to quit smoking. You need to get clean for this baby you're carrying. I did. That was it. I didn't pick up a drink. I didn't pick up nothing until I had him. And then after I had him, he was born July 1st. He just turned 8 years old a couple days ago. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep. That's my only son. I didn't think I was going to be able to have kids, so he was a miracle baby to begin with. But after I had him, I grew into a depression, having to be home with him all day while he's off at work. Then he would get off and he would go out to the bar and leave me at home still with a newborn. And I just grew really depressed, and I started to get high again. I want to say it was 2 weeks before his second birthday. I was already out on bond for a burglary.
What'd you steal?
Nothing, to be honest. And there's a better one. So I was out on bond and I was tired. No, I couldn't get help. Nobody knew. Nobody could see that I was tired and I wanted help. And so I went and broke into my pastor's house, and I hid in his closet until I got home from church. And obviously they called the cops, and I got sentenced to 36 months in DOC, which not necessarily the help that I wanted, but it sat me down. And I did pretty much all that, the whole 36 months almost. The last 9.
Oh, hey, you're muted for some reason.
I put on do not disturb. I don't know why that did that.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it.
I put it on, but I'm trying to make sure I don't leave out any key points that would continue to develop the story. I got out. I had my own car. I drove off of the work release place with my own vehicle. Like I had worked and busted my ass for the 9 months to be able to have money and a vehicle when I got out of prison. I got released the day before Thanksgiving in 2018. I hadn't seen my son in all that time. I hadn't talked to him on the phone. I wrote him every single day. I was in prison, and showed him letters and I knew exactly who I was when I got home. And my child's father he got married while I was in prison to somebody else, and that was hard to deal with when I found out that he was even seeing anybody. That was a little hard, but me and the stepmom, we get along great. They're actually now divorced. We're not technically divorced yet, but the papers were signed. So now I get my son every other weekend. So when I got released, they ended up releasing me with a warrant. How that happened, I don't know. But I was on probation. I also had 3 years probation after prison. And they ended up releasing me with this warrant, which I told my probation officer about it. I was like, you might want to check to see if I have this warrant. And she said she did, and she said I didn't have one. Well, come February, I get pulled over and I have a warrant. So guess what? I go to jail. She violated me 2 months later, and I had to go back to jail and do 1129 in county. After just having to serve all this time in prison. So that was hard, having freedom for 3-4 months and have to be put right back in jail. That sucks. Okay. Sucks. And I had a girlfriend at this point. I was living with her, and I got arrested. I didn't know it at the time. I had met this girl in county jail before I got sentenced to prison. She had come in on a traffic violation. So I ended up meeting her, and there was just something about her that I'm just like, and we ended up being together. She just left me actually for a 60-year-old woman. That's a little hard. Threw me out on the streets. That's why I'm in this hotel right now. I almost died. I was in a really bad car accident in 2020. I've been drinking, and I hit a tree and flipped my Jeep over, and I had to be life flighted. You would think that would stop me from drinking after that. It didn't. I went out a couple times after that and ended up both times ended up in the hospital because I passed out. One time I was by myself. I drove. I don't know how. I don't even know how I got to where my vehicle was left at. But I guess I had locked myself out of the Jeep, and I passed out in the middle of the road. And an 18-wheeler, thank God he was paying attention, because he would have hit me. I would have died that night. My dad said that the police called him at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he thought I was dead. Because he said the cops asked him, do you know an Elizabeth McCormick? I'll go ahead and say my last name. I don't care. And he was like, is she dead? And they were like, well, no, but she almost died. That was the last time I drank. That was the last time I drank. I might have an occasional wine cooler every now and again, but I don't drink. I just can't. It's like I take one extreme to another.
That's what us addicts do.
And I know I'm an addict, and I'm quick to say I'm an addict, and but I'm also very, very proud of how far I have come. Let me see if I will show you what I look like in my prison photo. And this is always one of my testimonies. I mean, I was even featured on Spotlight on Recovery in the county that I live in. The police department does this Spotlight on Recovery thing because they're trying to, meth is so, it has evolved so much and it is so cheap to get now that it's everywhere. It's like a pandemic almost where I'm at. And they featured me on here because they know how hard I work. Let's see.
So what is life like for you nowadays, now that you're sober?
I would like to say that it is better. It is better because it's better because I'm sober. I've had some really rough patches here within the last year and a half. I tried to commit suicide twice. The first time was at Christmas. My girlfriend had kissed somebody else, and she kept telling me every day that she didn't want to be with me, that she didn't love. And I'm sensitive. I wear my heart on my sleeve. And when you're told that constantly every single day by the person that supposedly loves you, it wears on you. And she had left. I don't even know where she went. She had left, and I just had enough, and I went outside to one of our buildings that we had, and I hung myself, and God woke me up, and I don't know why, and I don't know how long I was out or anything like that, but I just remember waking up, and I'm sorry. That's
What do you mean
sorry.
woke you up?
Like
Like physically you
he
got
woke
up?
me like yeah, like I was, I guess I passed out.
Well, you were what? You hung yourself?
Yeah, like the rafter that I had put the rope over was not that far off the ground, really. So like when I did, I slid down. So like my feet, I wish I could show you. I don't want to relive that moment, but um, I still have the rope, as a matter of fact. And I know that's crazy. But I think I kept it for to remind me that, you know, it just wasn't my time to die, really. I believe that God has something planned for me. I don't know what it is, but something. He's testing me. I'll tell you that. Definitely testing me. I still have the note that I wrote to my girlfriend, who didn't even bother to come home at all and check on me. I just remember waking up and it was storming outside, really bad weather. That was at Christmas time, last year. And things just got worse between me and this girl. Um, to the point she stabbed me right there. Um, I walked around with a really bad black eye for 3 or 4 weeks. Very abusive, very toxic. Um, she turned out to be doing meth. She was smoking, and she had me fooled. She had me fooled. Um, yeah, and that brings me to where I'm at right now. Um, I had a house. We had bought a mobile home and put it out on some land that we were living on. And that was our home, something that could never be taken away from either one of us, that we always had a place to go. And they ended up making me sell it. And she pretty much threw me out every other day, but always called me back. She always would come back and, she would always get me, and I would always go back. Except this last time. And I'm at a really, really low spot, and I'm still there. Like, I'm sober, but I'm just at a really, really low spot right now.
How are you staying sober? How do you stay sober through things like this? Is there anything special that you do?
I talk to God. I color. I have multiple coloring books. It's a great stress reliever. I also don't talk to any of the people that I associated with before prison. There's not one person that I talk to now that I talked to back then. I completely changed my whole circle. I didn't even move back to the town I was in before I went. So my son lives in a totally different town, but I refuse to go back there. I refuse, because it would just be too easy. And I'm strong, but I don't think I would have control with the way things have been happening for me. That I wouldn't go out and get high. Up here, where I'm at, I don't know anybody here. I know a bondsman, and he's the one that ended up helping me get this room. That's pretty much it. So I'm by myself. That's how I'm not getting high. I don't know where to get it. And nowadays you can't be too sure if you go up to ask somebody if that's what they're really giving you, with all the fentanyl and all of that.
Yep. Fentanyl is in everything.
And it is. I can't believe like how many people are overdosing on this fentanyl. And I mean, I would like to think I haven't had it, but I really don't know, because you really don't know what's in these drugs nowadays. I have started a nonprofit. It's called B&M Angels. I don't know if you have went on my page or not. It's for drug addiction. I wanted the goal of being able to talk to people and have them understand how addiction is hereditary. I don't know if you know that. Do you know that?
From what I understand, they think that it's something that's true, but they're not 100%. Like, they don't have any scientific proof yet, but they believe it is, because, like, you look at just statistically speaking, a lot of people with addiction issues grew up in a household with addiction issues.
Right. And I mean, addiction can be anything. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't necessarily have to be a drug.
No, of course not. It could be food.
It can be sex. It could be food. It could be gambling. I mean, addiction doesn't just go towards the drug area. And I was hoping to make people more aware that mental health also plays a factor in drug addiction. You're not feeling good enough about yourself, go get high. Was there a time that you didn't get high, that you didn't feel better about yourself?
What do you mean? Well, I would get high. Like for me, it was mostly drinking towards the end. And at that point, I would drink. I would only feel okay for a few minutes, and then I would get pretty depressed.
See, that played it. You felt good, but then it played right back down to where you were.
Exactly.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand addiction. They think it can be helped. They think that it's a choice. It is a choice up till a certain, now this is my belief, up till a certain point, it's a choice. But if it takes a hold of you, it takes a hold of you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Nope.
Hopefully just pray. And people, they shun so many people. It's ridiculous. I have a group on Facebook that I created. It's called Safe Zone. Addicts do recover. And I have there's a lot of members on there that aren't even addicts, but they want to know, they want to learn about it. And I'm working with the chief of police in Slocum, which is a city inside of a county. I'm working with him to get a meeting set up with the city hall members, and hopefully I'll be able to get my group started. But I can't really do that right now because of the position that I'm in. She threw me out. I work at the hotel I'm staying at. I clean the rooms here. But I've been here for 2 weeks, and it's been rough. It's been really, really rough. I don't have a dollar to my name. I'm just the clothes that are in here, and they don't have shelters or anything around here. Not for women. They're all for men. So I'm kind of like I'm in a state of depression, and I have thought about going to get high, but then I think about it, and I don't want to go back to prison. I don't. I don't know if you've ever been to prison, but I don't want to go back.
I can only imagine how terrible it is.
Where do you live at? Like what state?
I'm in New Jersey.
Oh, okay. In New Jersey.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen on the news any of the news stories about Lowell Correctional Facility in Florida.
No.
Well, it's a level 7 maximum security prison that has been on the news for all types of stuff. Guards having sex with inmates, all kinds of stuff. So like, I don't want to go back to that. And now I live in Alabama, and I damn sure am not going to Tutwiler. I'm not. Tutwiler is Alabama's only women's prison. It's a very dangerous prison on top of that. And I survived the first time. I don't think I would survive this time. So I just refuse to go back.
Just make sure you stay active good.
I mean, it's hard. Don't get me wrong. I'm not perfect. And I still have a long, long road ahead of me, a lot of recovery. But I've come a long way. I forgot to look for that picture. Let's see. Oh, my phone's dying. Hang on. I'll plug my phone in.
Do I still have you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay.
So what's going on? So my last question for you. Oh, okay. Oh, I see it. Yeah, look at the difference there. Huge difference.
Yeah. That was a matter
So I have one last question for you.
of picture.
So that was a great picture, Elizabeth. Let me ask you one last question. Do you have
Sure.
any advice? Do you have any advice for people watching and listening?
Don't give up. That's all I can say. Don't give up. Recovery is possible. You got to want to help yourself, though. You're not going to get clean if you don't want to. You got to want to get clean.
It's good
It's hard.
advice. Simple but very simple but profound.
Yeah, I mean it's not simple. I'm not going to tell you it's easy. I'm not, and depending on what type of drug you do, it's not easy. It's not. I still struggle every day. I have God to thank for a lot of it. My son, he keeps me sober. I wish he would have kept me sober when I was before, but my addiction had already taken me. So all I can say is keep your head up. And if you really, truly want to get sober, you can get sober. It's possible.
Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. It's great advice. So I think that's a good place to end it.
Yeah.
So for everyone watching and listening, if you like what you saw and heard, go below and give us a like. Also subscribe to see when we upload new videos. You can also check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also check us out at www.addicts-anonymous.com for more information. There you could find approved literature as well as a ton of resources. So go check that out. That's all I have for today, and until next time.